Are we thriving? Is our members in
Well,
your
I would
state,
argue
black
we're
folks
not.
in your
I would
state
argue we're not
thriving?
really thriving right now. This inflation, which by the way was brought to us by Kamala Harris, has really slowed down people from being able to excel.
By Kamala?
Yes.
The vice president.
Oh, Charlemagne.
It's still the president.
Charlemagne, listen, man. When Joe Biden wanted to do his American Rescue Plan, Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote in the United States Senate. She broke the tie that started this inflation that has hurt so many people in our country. Everybody listening to your show, it's not true?
Did you catch the fireworks on the Breakfast Club? Byron Donalds just laid down some hard truths about Kamala Harris and inflation. Let's break down this heated exchange and see why Donalds says the economy's been terrible for everyday Americans. Byron Donalds, a Republican congressman known for his straight talk on economic issues, went head-to-head with liberal commentator Angela Rye. Their appearance on The Breakfast Club wasn't just another political chat. It was a clash of ideologies that got real heated, real fast. What made this debate so explosive? Donalds took aim at Kamala Harris, blaming her for the inflation that's hitting our wallets. He also compared Trump's economy to Biden's. And let me tell you, the sparks were flying. Why should you care? Because this debate gets to the heart of what's affecting your daily life. The economy, your paycheck, and the prices you're paying at the store. It's time to look at the facts and decide for yourself who's really got your back in Washington. So Donalds is blaming Kamala for our economic woes. Sounds crazy, right? But here's the thing. He's got some pretty interesting evidence to back it up. Let's take a closer look at why he thinks one vote changed everything.
First of all, it's
you sure you want to go there?
Tie-breaking vote.
You sure you want to go there?
Go outside,
What you
Congressman,
pulling
when you
out?
go outside.
You sure
in
you want to
your
go there?
district,
Okay, let's go there.
You had it
You
pretty
got
bad.
notes.
What I-
You got
what I
notes, Angela,
actually-
right?
That's fine. I have notes
I'm
too.
gonna give
and
it. I'm gonna
the
give it to
biggest note I
Charlemagne.
have today
I'm gonna give it to Charlemagne.
is that on
I don't even
every
wanna hold
question
it.
I've asked,
Because Angela,
for
hold on now.
every
Go ahead.
for every infrastructure project in your community,
You can go to
should
third
go
page,
out
just the
and
highlighted
thank
portion.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Congress that voted for the American Rescue Plan.
Angela,
That's what should be happening.
Larry Summers wrote an op-ed back in 2021. Larry Summers was the Treasury Secretary for Bill Clinton. He was an economic advisor to Barack Obama. He said that the American Rescue Plan that Joe Biden wanted, that Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote in the United States Senate, would create a massive inflation that we have not seen in a generation. Well, guess what? Larry Summers was correct. You know who also was correct, Angela? I was, because I was in the budget committee when they brought the bill. And I said in that committee, it's going to cause massive inflation. That's what happened. So the problem we have in our economy today is that prices have gone up massively. Wages adjusted for inflation is down. People's pocketbooks are hurting. But we have a presidential election in 40 days. So, and I'm gonna ask Envy this question. Envy, you're in the housing business as well. I know because I watch.
Figure out how
I listen to the
Envy's
show.
interviewed.
No, I'm just asking them a question. Chill, Angela. So I listen to the show. I know you do a lot of business in housing.
Mm-hmm.
Would you hire somebody that broke up stuff in one of your houses to fix the other houses?
No.
Exactly. She broke the economy.
I'm
That's
not
not-
going to
that's
do
not
this
me.
this morning, Byron.
Why
so
are you not
now
going
you
to do
told
this,
me to
Angela?
chill.
Because I'm
gonna
bringing
tell you
facts.
to chill and
Hold on
actually
now.
try to
So
take a
now
deep breath
I'm bringing facts,
and
and you
answer
don't
a
want to do it
question.
no more? Come on now, Angela. That's not right. I'm bringing facts.
so
I
back-
thought
so
we were
back
going to
to
have
the
a
point, 'cause you wanted
fact-based
to bring up-
conversation.
You
I want to
wanted
have a
bring up
fact-based
both.
conversation.
Byron Donalds isn't pulling punches when it comes to inflation. He's pointing the finger straight at Vice President Kamala Harris, and it all comes down to a single tie-breaking vote. Donalds argues that Harris's support for the American Rescue Plan set off a chain reaction that's hitting our wallets hard. In his own words, Donalds claims this inflation has really slowed down people from being able to excel. He's not alone in this thinking. Donalds brings up Larry Summers, a former Treasury Secretary who predicted the American Rescue Plan would lead to significant inflation. Turns out, Summers might have been onto something. But what does this mean for you and me? Well, according to Donalds, it's not good news. He points out that while prices have skyrocketed, wages haven't kept up when you factor in inflation. In other words, your paycheck might look the same, but it's not stretching as far as it used to at the grocery store or the gas pump. Donalds doesn't stop there. He's drawing a stark contrast between the current economic situation and the Trump era. He argues that under Trump, we saw wage growth and price stability. Now, not so much. The congressman's take is that the average American is feeling the squeeze, and he's not shy about saying who he thinks is responsible. But here's where it gets really interesting. Donalds isn't just talking about the short-term impact. He's looking at the long game. Even though inflation rates have started to come down, Donalds argues that the damage is already done. In his view, that initial spike in prices has had a lasting effect on everything we buy. So what's the takeaway here? Donalds is making a case that policy decisions in Washington have real, tangible effects on our daily lives. Whether you agree with him or not, it's clear that the debate over inflation and its causes is far from over. What do you think about Donalds' arguments? Are you feeling the pinch of inflation in your own life? These are the questions at the heart of this heated debate, and they're not going away anytime soon.
When Donald Trump was president versus when Joe Biden was president, that's what people are looking at right now. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump wages adjusted for inflation were up. Costs were stabilized. And so those two inputs in an economy make you feel like you have more money in your pocket. When Donald Trump came into office, under then President Obama, our economy was somewhat stagnant. We were growing about 1.5% per year. And so his changes in economic and tax policy in particular, but then also regulatory policy, where he cut a ton of regulations, our economic growth moved from 1.5 to 3.5. That's a real boost to people, and they see it and they remember it. Now you have the Biden-Harris economy. Well, we've stagnated again, and inflation is massively up. So how people feel is, wait a minute, I just went to the grocery store. I bought bread. I bought cookies. I bought milk. It's way more expensive. I got a raise, but it doesn't feel like I'm still getting ahead. My rent's more expensive. Fixing my car is more expensive. And all those things are obviously ascribed to the current administration because the inflation started really in September 2021 after the American Rescue Plan, that was Joe Biden's plan, came into law. Mm-hmm. So people are feeling that, Charlamagne.
Now let's talk numbers. You've heard the economy's booming, right? Donalds begs to differ. He's got some stats that might make you question everything you thought you knew about our current economic health. According to Donalds, under Trump, our economic growth moved from 1.5 to 3.5. That's a pretty significant jump. But what about now? Donalds isn't pulling any punches. He claims the economy has been terrible for middle and lower class families under Biden. But wait a minute. Aren't we seeing strong economic indicators? Record low unemployment, rising wages. Sounds pretty good, right? Here's where things get interesting. Despite these positive numbers, many working class Americans are still feeling the pinch. It's like there are two different economic realities playing out side by side. Donalds points to a shift that's happening right under our noses. He's noticed a change in voter support, especially among Latino and blue-collar workers. These groups, traditionally Democratic strongholds, are starting to look elsewhere. Why? Donalds argues it's all about the economy. Think about it. If you're struggling to make ends meet, does it matter what the national economic stats say? Donalds is tapping into a real disconnect between what we're hearing about the economy and what people are experiencing day to day. But it's not just about today's economic struggles. Donalds is looking at the long game. He's suggesting that these economic pressures are reshaping political allegiances. People who've always voted Democrat are starting to question whether that party still represents their interests. What do you think? Are economic policies really powerful enough to redraw political battle lines? Donald seems to think so. He's arguing that the Democrats' approach to the economy is pushing away the very voters they've relied on for years. It's a bold claim, and it's stirring up a lot of debate. But whether you agree with Donalds or not, he's shining a light on an important issue. The gap between economic data and everyday reality is real, and it's affecting how people vote.
What does qualified immunity have to do with having less police officers?
Because the economic incentive of qualified immunity means that your personal assets aren't gone after if something goes wrong. So, you're in business. Do you get involved in a project or a deal that leaves you massively exposed financially? You may, depending on your passion for that project, but then you also sit back and think, now, wait a minute, if something goes wrong, I'm going to be held massively liable. Maybe I need to do something.
When something goes wrong, we're talking about people getting violently hurt or killed.
Yeah, clearly.
And I named people that you brushed over.
But it's when somebody clearly violates a constitutional right.
And when you violate a constitutional right, qualified immunity doesn't apply to you. And that's what I'm talking about. It does not. And Angela, don't do that. It does not.
I thought that was the definition. I thought that was the definition.
No, it does not.
I thought that was the definition.
No, it does not. If you carry yourself outside of the confines of your training and the protocols of that department, qualified immunity doesn't apply to you. It does not.
That's not true.
That is very true. That is very true.
That is patently false.
It's patently true, and we need to make sure we have that accurate. We cannot make that statement because you have a lot of officers out here who do their job with honor and dignity and respect for the people that they serve.
Listen, qualified immunity is a legal doctrine that protects government officials from civil lawsuits when they perform their jobs unless they clearly violate a constitutional right.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And what is a violation of that right is when they're outside the norms of their training and the protocols of that department or that agency.
Here's the main thing, because we can actually go past past qualified immunity because this is the place where you've refused to answer both on Donald Trump's accountability and on the law enforcement that you love so dearly.
Right.
What we know is that he's seeking full immunity, like the same immunity he now has because of the Supreme Court. Because of the corruption of the Supreme Court, we have now gone beyond civil presidential immunity to criminal presidential immunity. He would like to give that same immunity to law enforcement. True or false?
Well, let's expand that a couple
True
things.
or false?
You can't ask a true or false, Angela, because you got to explain the details. No, see, this is the
I
problem.
don't want you to explain the details because when you explain
Why you
the
don't
details,
want people to
we
hear
end
the
up down the road
details,
and
Angela? The details are what the things that matter. You got to explain the details, or then you just talk. You're just talking,
and then explain.
If you don't explain the details, then you're just talking.
Yeah, you don't want to say that because you know that it's not true. So
that is not true. You want a true or false statement,
Congressman? I want to know.
I don't want to argue with you. I want to explain the facts.
So, what's the real takeaway from this heated exchange? Donald's made some strong points about inflation, economic struggles, and changing voter sentiments. But it's not just about the facts, it's how they're delivered. Donald's called out Rye's emotional responses, saying they got in the way of a real conversation. He's got a point. When debates turn into shouting matches, nobody wins. As Donald's put it, the back and forth is not about winning, but about informing the audience. But here's the million-dollar question. Can we have passionate debates without losing sight of the facts? Donald's thinks so. He believes that sticking to the facts can actually help viewers learn something new. What do you think? Can emotions and facts coexist in political debates? Or are we doomed to endless shouting matches? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.